Butter, so say 30 grams of butter and just 20 grams of flour does the same thing, plus it helps that roux cook a little bit more evenly. So check it out, you can see that roux, it's bubbling up nicely, everything's cooking very evenly, looks really well. Make sure that you do watch the heat, you definitely don't want to burn it, so just keep your eye on it. We've cooked our roux for 1 to 3 minutes, we've gotten rid of that flour flavor, so we're going to go ahead and add the milk, 2 cups or 500 milliliters. Here's a little secret on how to make a lump-free sauce. The best way to do that is to add cold milk to the hot roux. That'll reduce the chances of your sauce lumping up. And you're going to want to break out that whisk and whisk it up a little bit. And it's a good idea to grab a spoon, scrape around the edge of the pan. The whisk really can't get in there, so just make sure that you take that spoon and dig it in. And then also scrape the bottom of the pan just to make sure that all of that roux mixture is well incorporated into the liquid. And the next ingredient for this traditional bechamel sauce is half an onion or 50 grams. We're also going to throw in 1 bay leaf and then 1 clove.
So, मैले के भनेको थिएँ, what is that called? उहिले त डाइरेक्ट हाल्यो, तर usually onion मा कुकहरूले तताउँछ हो, onion मा bay leaf हाल्छ, then clove ले अड्काउँछ त्यसलाई.
Lump-free sauce. Bechamel. Just because it's one of the 5 French mother sauces doesn't mean that it's difficult to make. Let me walk you through how easy it is to make the simple white sauce. And for a little extra bonus, I'll let you in on a secret on how to make a lump-free sauce. Welcome to the Sauce and Gravy channel. This is Johnny Mac, and we're going to dive into a French mother sauce, a traditional bechamel sauce. Buckle up, let's go! Alright, so let's start off this traditional sauce recipe. We're going to work with the butter first. We're over at low to medium heat. We're going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter, or roughly about 30 grams. Of course, a basic bechamel is a white sauce. So we don't want to brown the butter, we don't want to make it blonde, we want to keep it as light as possible, so just make sure you watch the heat and just slowly melt that butter down. For the next step, we're going to go ahead and add our flour. I'm going to put 20 grams of flour, or roughly 2 tablespoons. Traditionally, you put equal parts butter and flour, so 30 grams butter, 30 grams of flour. However, I've found that in order to get a evenly filter, if you do that, you're just going to smash through the lumps and impurities, and that kind of defeats the purpose of filtering it, and you can say goodbye to the silky smooth sauce. And once again, we're off heat here, so we're just wrapping everything up, and check out that traditional bechamel sauce. It looks silky smooth, it's nice and thick, looks absolutely delicious. Now to add a tiny bit of a touch of flavor, we're going to add some white pepper, 1/4 of a teaspoon. And then we're going to put in a little bit of salt, just a pinch of salt to taste. And to wrap up this traditional white sauce or bechamel sauce, we're going to throw in a dash of nutmeg. The bechamel sauce, it is one of the French 5 mother sauces, and by itself, it's really just a simple white sauce. And that's the beauty of this simple white sauce. Your options are endless. You could add all sorts of flavors to it to create any sort of derivative sauce that you like. For instance, cheese for mornayse or onions for sous vide. The options are endless. Alright, Sauce and Gravy Nation, so now you know how to make the traditional bechamel sauce, French mother sauce. It's delicious. It is the base of a lot of flavorful sauces. Let me show you how easy it is to make this delicious sauce. And I'll share a secret or two on how to know whenever the roux is done cooking and ready to go. Welcome to the Sauce and Gravy channel. This is Johnny Mac, and we're going to dive into a French mother sauce, a traditional velouté sauce. Buckle up, let's go. So let's begin this sauce. This sauce is going to have 2 main steps. First step is to make the roux. Second step is to add the stock or the liquid to the roux. We are going to start off with the cooking of the roux. Step number 1. We're going to keep this roux blonde. This traditional velouté sauce is a blonde or a white sauce, so you definitely don't want to brown the roux. Add roughly 3 tablespoons of butter, or 45 grams, into a saucepan over medium heat. Let that butter melt down nice and slow. You definitely don't want to brown it. And then we're going to add roughly 3 tablespoons of flour, or 30 grams. Traditionally, you would add equal parts butter and flour, say 30 grams flour, 30 grams butter. However, I have found that it works best to add a little bit more butter, so say 45 grams of butter and 30 grams of flour. This allows the roux to cook a little bit more evenly, so the roux doesn't clump up, there's less chances of it browning or burning, and whenever you're working with a white sauce, like this traditional velouté sauce, you want to have as much control over that blonde roux as possible to keep it from browning. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll share a couple little secrets with you on how to know whenever your roux is done cooking and ready to go. We cooked the roux for roughly 2 minutes. We got that flour taste out. Now it's on to step number 2 to add the stock. So we're using chicken stock. And remember, this is a traditional velouté sauce, so it is a white sauce. You could add any sort of white stock that you like. You could use this chicken stock. You could use white veal stock. You could use a vegetable stock. You could use a fish stock. Go ahead and leave a comment below. What stock do you like to use in your velouté sauce? We still have the burner over medium heat. We want to bring this to a nice little bit of a rolling simmer. Not too much of a boil, but just a nice simmer. At that point, it's a good time to grab a spoon and start to skim the impurities off the side. If you'll notice, whenever it's simmering, it pushes those impurities to the side of the saucepan. Also has a little pocket in the center, which makes it really easy just to skim it off the top. And it's a really good idea to do this to have a nice clean sauce. Once you've cleaned up the sauce a little bit, go ahead and turn down the heat to low. We're going to reduce this down for 15 minutes or until you've reached your desired thickness. The longer that you simmer it down, the more concentrated and thick it becomes. We've reduced the sauce down for 15 minutes. Now a good way to check to make sure that it's the desired thickness, stick that spoon in the sauce, run the finger down the back, and the line says you're good to go. Now we'll add a little bit of seasoning to this traditional white sauce. Because it is a white sauce, we'll add 1/4 of a teaspoon of white pepper and some salt to taste. Grab a spoon, mix in that salt and pepper, make sure it's well incorporated. Once it's mixed in really well, you can go ahead and turn off the heat. Velouté sauce is power-packed with a lot of concentrated flavor. Because of this, it's the base sauce for many derivative sauces, like sauce allemande, where the egg yolk is added, and sauce supreme, where you add cream. If you'd like to check out some of the derivative sauces, go ahead and click the link on the top right-hand side of the page. To make sure that the sauce is silky smooth, we're going to go ahead and we're going to filter it through a fine sieve. Grab that filter, we're off heat, grab a nice saucepan, filter it through. Take that saucepan, give that sieve a tap just to make sure the sauce comes through. And there you have it, a traditional velouté sauce, a silky smooth white sauce at its best. And now to that little secret that I promised you in the introduction. This is how you know a roux is fully cooked. The first indicator is the change of the color of the roux. Check out around those bubbles. See that arrow? See the roux is starting to turn white? Once the roux turns completely white, then you know that that roux is done and cooked through. The second indicator is the smell. It's a smoky type toasted nut smell. Once you start smelling that, you know that it's done. And the reason why you want to cook the roux is to get rid of that flour type taste. And this process usually takes 1 to 3 minutes. Great, so now you know how to tell whenever a roux is cooked and the flour taste is gone, and we've completed this sauce. Now it's time for you to go on out and give the velouté sauce a try. Let me know how it works out for you. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I want to make sure that your sauce making experience is as smooth as possible.
It's one of the 5 mother sauces, and it's notoriously difficult to make, but with a few tips and tricks, I think you'll have success at home. So let's get started. To get started with the hollandaise, we need probably 1 of 2 key ingredients. The first ingredient is egg yolk. So I have 3 large eggs here. These are at room temperature. Now, I will say one thing. If you're new to cooking and you don't have those technical skills yet, it's a little easier to separate eggs when they're cold. So if you're new, try to get the eggs out of the refrigerator, but I'm going to share with you a little tip of mine that I like to do when I'm separating eggs, especially if it's a large batch of eggs. So one thing is, when you're breaking the egg, try to tap it on the surface, not on the side of the bowl. If you tap it on the side of the bowl, you're more likely to get little pieces of shell up into the egg, which ultimately end up in the bowl. So a flat surface is really key here, so just give it a good solid tap. And then I like to just crack the egg fully into a small bowl. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, what are you doing there? Now, if you're okay with this and you're not concerned about getting your hands dirty, with really clean hands, it's super easy to fish the yolk out from the whites. And I usually just slide it back and forth in between my hands, using my hands as kind of a natural strainer here. And you have a nice, perfect golden egg yolk separated from the white. Now, you can also use the shell to your advantage if you would like. I can show you that. So again, a firm tap on the surface, and then I usually take my two thumbs to pry open the egg, and then you can use the shell as little cups, similar to your hand, to kind of release the white from the yolk right into the bowl. Sometimes the hand trick is a little bit faster, but it's all up to personal preference. Whoops. Alright. So, 3 egg yolks right into a large heat-resistant bowl. So, one of the things about hollandaise is that you have to make the base, what you're going to add the butter to, you have to make it overheat. So it gets nice, thick, viscous, and ready for all of the wonderful melts of butter that we're going to add to it. Now, in addition to the 3 egg yolks I have here, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice. Now, this is 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm only going to add half of it, so about a tablespoon. And acidity is really important here. One, it adds great flavor. It cuts through all of the fat and richness in a hollandaise sauce. And it also really helps with the emulsion that we're going to be creating. So, whisk this together for maybe a minute or so, just by hand until it's nice, pale in color, and really creamy. And now I'm going to add a pinch of salt and a little bit of boiling water. So I need about a quarter of a cup of boiling water that I'm going to add to this base. This is a 4-ounce ladle, so that's a half a cup. So I'm really only going to use half of it, filled with the boiling water, and then I'm going to slowly stream it into my egg yolks while I'm whisking with my dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, that's why I'm using my right hand today. So just gently, slowly pour in this boiling water, and then just whisk this until it becomes nice, pale, a nice golden color. It's not going to get really thick or anything like that, but it is going to start to get a little frothy. So maybe about a minute off the heat. And then I'm going to cook this mixture over a low simmer. So I have a pot set over a burner here. I'm going to turn it down just so we have these small little bubbles which you can see appearing in the pan. You don't want a vigorous boil here, you really just want something that's nice and subtle, and what that's going to do is it's going to gently heat up our yolks, activating their thickening potential, so this is going to get nice and thick and voluminous, and then we're going to add in our butter. So really, egg yolks and butter, those are the 2 key ingredients that are necessary in making a beautiful hollandaise. The other elements that we added either help with the emulsion, like the lemon juice, or they add really great flavor to your sauce. So you can see that you're getting some decent bubbles, the mixture is getting nice and creamy. It's not super thick or riveting. That's going to happen with the addition of heat. So I'm going to take this bowl, let me just turn my heat up a little bit here so we have those nice small bubbles. This goes on top of the heat, and now I'm going to continue to whisk this constantly. You can either do in a circular motion like I'm doing here with the whisk. I'm really just using my wrist to push the tines of the whisk or the wires of the whisk out and around, or you could give it the figure eight. And this really helps to kind of agitate the egg yolks into a lofty froth, and then it builds in an incredible amount of volume.
सर अस्ति तपाईँले भन्दै थियो नि डबल बोइल चिकन त्यही होला
And once we get there, I'll be able to show you what that means so that you can replicate it in your kitchen. So we're getting thicker here. You can see the viscosity of the liquid has changed. It's kind of thicker. There's almost a trail that's being left in the middle of the bowl with the whisking motion that I'm doing here. And that's how you know that you're almost ready. You're almost at the ribbon stage. We're not quite done yet. Put it on the heat maybe 4 to 5 minutes on that low simmer. And you don't want to rush this process, so you don't have this pot boiling vigorously at all. You're more likely to scorch your egg yolks if you do have that really high, intense, direct heat. So, low and slow is really how you're going to win this race. You can see, too, that the mixture is, it almost looks like a lemon curd in a way. It's nice and pale in color, it's shiny, and we're almost there, maybe a minute or so. Now, one of the things that I didn't mention before is what are the other mother sauces and what are they? So mother sauces, there are 5 of them in total, and they are the basis in French cuisine for so many different recipes. They're used as a sauce, or they can be used as elements in ingredients, or in recipes I should say. Like a bechamel, that's another mother sauce, and that is used quite often times in things like macaroni and cheese, or on top of a delicious baked potato. These mother sauces, they really are key. It's one of the things that you're taught in cooking school, how to make all of these, so that you have the basis to build on top of them and create other fantastic recipes. So right now, we're almost at that ribbon stage. You can see that when I lift my whisk up and I kind of spin the whisk a little bit
सर इसमा
around,
बटर पाउँछ
that it leaves a trail on top of the egg yolk mixture, and that means that it's at the ribbon stage. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this off the heat now, and we're ready at this point to add melted butter. So let me get situated, and then we'll add the butter to create the wonderful emulsion. All right. So now we're going to add the butter. You can see, again, I just wanted to share this with you guys. You can see how thick this mixture is. It's almost like a very loose mayonnaise or an aioli, and it leaves, again, that trail on top of the surface, and that's when you know you're at the ribbon stage. Now, I have some butter here that I've melted, and it's cooled slightly, and I've transferred it to a measuring cup. This is 12 tablespoons of butter, so a stick and a half is what that is. And I'm going to gently stream this melted butter into this base mixture of egg yolk. And you want to do this very, very slowly, because what you're trying to do is intensely emulsify the base and the butter together in one seamless, silky sauce. So if you add it too quickly, you run the risk of this whole thing separating. Now,
सर त्यो हातमा पक्रिरहेको चाहिँ के होला
videos on hollandaise, weather hollandaise, which is, I would say, for the novice cook, a little easier to execute. So you can check that out if maybe this is a little bit too advanced for you, but it's always good to know the classic technique, and then you can take those shortcuts. So I'm going to gently stream in this butter, whisking vigorously. You can do it a little bit at a time. You can add like a few drops to start. Again, whisk, whisk, whisk. And this is going to take a few minutes, so put on your favorite song. You can jam away. You can put somebody on speakerphone while you're doing this so that you're not so terribly bored. But again, slow is the key here. While I'm whisking in the butter, I thought I could share with you maybe a few different variations on this sauce, so you can kind of take this and amp up the flavors and make it your own. Now, a classic version of hollandaise is a béarnaise sauce, and what that is it usually has tarragon, and also in the initial stage of the process, instead of lemon juice, it's usually a wonderful vinegar that's reduced down into almost a syrup that's then added into the egg yolks. And a béarnaise sauce is typically served in France with a beautiful steak, a really well-seared steak, and frites. But it can go on so many different things. It pairs beautifully with lots of different proteins. Also, and it's kind of a lesser-known version of this sauce, but a little bit of orange juice and some orange zest in the classic hollandaise like this version, maybe even a little bit of cayenne, which I'm going to add to this recipe, is a great version of the hollandaise sauce as well. And it goes wonderfully with a lot of steamed vegetables. The other thing I just want to mention here is with such a really great recipe that only has a few ingredients, it's important to use the best quality ingredients you can find. Now, that even means the eggs that you're buying. If you can get eggs from the farmer's market that have a really deep orange yolk to them, you'll have even more beautiful color in your hollandaise sauce in the end. Also, if you can find market any of the European style butters or grass-fed butters, again, there's a higher fat content in European style butters, so you get an even richer sauce. And typically, European style butters use grass-fed milk, which has even more flavor. So buy the best quality ingredients here, because you really only need a few ingredients to make this spectacular sauce. The last bit of butter, I'm going to just stream that in. And you can see, this is a rather thick sauce. Now, hollandaise, I would say, is kind of similar in a way to mayonnaise, right? Because it really relies on those two ingredients, fat and then the egg yolks. In the case of mayonnaise, it's usually oil that's used in place of the butter that's used here in hollandaise. So, look at that, it's nice, creamy, it has a beautiful color to it. And now I'm going to season the sauce. So, a little bit more salt at the end. I like a pinch of cayenne pepper. I don't like to use black pepper in hollandaise. I think the cayenne adds a really nice kick. And it also gives kind of a really nice little pink hue to the sauce itself. And now, to thin this out ever so slightly, a few drops of the remaining lemon juice. And you want to do this just very gently, a few drops at a time. This will thin the sauce out nicely, but really you should do this to your desired consistency. If you want something that's a little bit thinner, you certainly could add more lemon juice or even a little bit of water. That's perfectly acceptable. But I tend to like my hollandaise on the thicker side. And there you go, guys. It doesn't take really that much time and effort to make a hollandaise. You really just need to know those little tips and tricks along the way. Now, you have a beautiful sauce that's ready for eggs Benedict. It's a perfect sauce for any delicate fish like sole maybe. You could even put it with salmon. And it's also really fantastic with just some simple blanched or steamed vegetables. And as always, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to see if our recipes are successful. So reach out to us using the hashtag #VegicCannopost. Enjoy, guys. So if you were here last week, we learned how to make the famous brown stock using the Escoffier method. And as I said, brown stock is the base of many sauces. Today's exercise will consist of transforming that brown stock into a sauce. And not any sauce. We're going to transform that brown stock into the famous sauce espagnole. So if you want to learn the origin of the sauce and how to make the espagnole, stay tuned. Alright, so let's have a look at this sauce espagnole or espagnole sauce. First, the translation in French, it means the Spanish sauce. A few facts about that sauce: it is one of the 5 mother sauce in France. We call them in France actually the great sauces. Why are they called like that? Because they were deemed to be the basis of all sauces. So you could use that sauce on its own, or you could use it actually to build upon other ingredients and transform it into another sauce, the same as the béchamel. In terms of history, the King of France, Louis XIV, decided to marry with Marie-Thérèse from Spain, which was the daughter of the King of Spain at the time. And Marie-Thérèse had to move from Spain with all of her stuff, and she moved to the palace in Versailles. But when she arrived there, she didn't arrive on her own. She had all the servants, the cook, the furniture, and even some produce like oranges and chocolates that were never seen before. And in terms of the sauce, what happened is very simple, is that in the court of Louis XIV, they were eating a lot of meats, and there was a lot of brown sauce going around, that kind of brown stock with some meaty taste, and that was about all there was in terms of sauce. And one of the cooks from Marie-Thérèse from Spain, one of the Spanish cooks, said, we know another way to make it. We can add some things in there, some roux, some flour and butter, some tomatoes, some mushrooms, so our ingredients in there to make it more flavorsome. And this is the thing about making the sauce. And indeed, everybody loved it. And it went like wildfire. So to dedicate the name or the origin of that sauce to the chef, to the Spanish guy. And so actually it became the sauce espagnole, an all-rounder of a sauce. Now to transform a stock into a sauce, like I always said, you need flavors, because flavoring doesn't come on its own. So as you can see here, this is what is going to transform our stock into a sauce. So we've got some mushroom, garlic, onions, some tomato, we use tomato paste as well, some carrots, parsley, we're going to usually use the stalks, flour and butter to make a roux, and most importantly some nice smoky bacon. Before we start cooking, as always, we prepare the mise en place, the food preparation in English, and this is what I make. Always prepare your mise en place before you do anything that makes your life much easier. I've got a mirepoix of carrot and onion, some mushroom trimmings I've prepared, the bacon is diced, the garlic clove, I've got one here with the germ removed, and the reason we remove the germ is because otherwise the germ is bitter. It could bring a bitter taste in the preparation, so always remove the germ if there is one. I've added my butter and flour, and I've made my bouquet garni again, parsley, so fresh thyme, and 1 or 2 bay leaves maximum. If you don't have the fresh stuff, you can use just bay leaf and dry thyme, that will work as well. Tomato paste and some tomato. Now we're all ready to start our sauce.
Come down to the stove and let's start the sauce espagnole. So you can see this is my setup again. I've got 3 cups of brown stock, that's the Escoffier stock from last time that I've frozen and I've reheated it, simmering gently. And make sure you remove all the skin on the top as it goes with that utensil here, the skin. And we're going to start in that pan. I'm using a cast iron pan. This is the Le Creuset 24 centimeter. And you're going to start by putting your bacon and butter on the bottom of your pan. And first melt everything. As you can see, my butter is melting slowly. And as soon as it's melted with my bacon, we're going to add the carrot and onion. You can do that on a medium heat as we want to have a slight coloration on everything. Yeah? So we're going to leave this for a few minutes until it colors slightly. That smell of carrots, onion and bacon. Just a one of a kind.
Saturday हालेको अप्सनल अहिले उसको बनाएको त्यो के भन्छ उसको फ्रेन्ड्सको अलिकति त्यो गरेको छु अप्सनल के मसरुमहरू पनि हालेको छु गार्लिकहरू यो खासमा त्यो अलरेडी स्टकमा भइसकेको हुन्छ यो फ्लेभरहरू
As soon as you roll, it's starting to get a bit of a brownish color like that. You're going to add the tomato paste. We're going to cook it for a few minutes to remove the
यो
acid.
सबै पेस्टहरू हुन्छ नि उसले अलरेडी त्यसमा हालेको हुन्छ अहिले रुट चाहिँ यसमा हो बट टमाटो पेस्टको फ्लेभर मिर्चको फ्लेभर अलरेडी बितेर
And brown roux. How simple was that? Now we've made the base of the espagnole, which is simply a tomato-based roux with a mere pot of carrots and onions. As you can see, there's just all the mix of vegetables. The flour has been roasted, so think roasted flavor. And we've got that brown color from the roux to make sure it goes with the brown sauce, and we keep the color coding in French cooking, brown with brown, white with white, depending on what kind of sauce you're making. Next step, we're going to have to leave this to cool down totally until we can pour the boiling stock into there and start our sauce. While the roux is cooling down, take me a moment to show you a little something. The recipe calls for chopped tomatoes. So anything French cooking, any French recipe, the proper one, professional one, if they call for chopped tomatoes, it's usually without the skin. So here I've got some tomatoes which are less than good looking and they're pretty bad. So we're going to just blanch them in boiling water for a few minutes to remove the skin. So there's a small technique that I'm sure a lot of you already know. I'm not reinventing the wheel, but that's what I show for the people that don't know. So you take the tomato and 2 steps. First, you have to remove the pellicule, the base, with your knife. So you remove this, and then you do a little cross on there. Once your tomatoes are ready, take each one and you plunge them in a pot of boiling water for about 10 to 20 seconds. After 20 seconds, you take the tomato out and you plunge it in icy water. The thermal shock is going to happen with the cold and the hot. Will basically start to detach all of the skin so that it can be peeled very easily. And that's the trick. Just to show you a video example, once they're done, look, the skin goes off, and with your hands, you can just remove the whole skin and discard it. That's how we skin tomatoes. Finally, once our roux here is cold, we can pour our stock in there. As we take the boiling stock, we're going to filter over. So it's 3 cups of brown stock, and this is the stock we've made last week. Remember, it was frozen. And I didn't mention that this version of the espagnole was the version being taught in French culinary school. It's not the main recipe, just to let you know. So based on the Escoffier stock, it's been adapted to take less time. So once you put this in the roux, you're going to put your heat on high and bring that to the boil. Look at that color. Pretty good. So once the boil is back, you're going to take all the tomatoes, the bouquet garni in there, the 2 garlic cloves that we had earlier, and the mushroom trimmings. And mix everything, and we're going to leave that sauce to cook on a simmer from 1.5 to 2 hours. And you can see with the color is nice and tomato, even what we want is to the taste of the stock, again concentrated with the flavoring of add the seasoning. This is because every ingredient, like the bacon's got salt, the carrot's got some sweetness, the mushrooms bring something. So let the vegetables express themselves first, and at the end only, then you do the seasoning. So now leave the sauce on a simmer, we leave it to cook ingredients for 1.5 to 2 hours, wiggling partially on.
1/2 to
So about 2 hours later, the sauce was heavily reduced, you can see, and it's really thick. So the only thing to do now is to filter this and transfer it into another pan so we can give the final touch. For filtering, same as before, fine mesh sieve, and you pass everything through. Once your pan has been transferred, the final touch is a nudge of butter in there. And you're going to slowly incorporate it, so I put a bit back on. And this is basically your espanol being done. Now, it's all done. The final touch is to correct the seasoning, and I will add a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt because I've just tasted it. And it was making a little bit of salt, but not too much. Et voilà. Now, to finish, what can we say about the sauce? Remind you of the culinary school. One of the mother sauces, and the mother sauce is really a sauce that can go from good to great, right? This is a sauce that you can use on the pot. You can make it with stews, with chicken, with beef.
पाँच वटा मदर सॉसेस को छोटा मेयोनीज को पनि पाँच वटा डेरिवेटिव सॉसेस with the ingredients.
So remember that it is a base sauce, so the taste is good. And it's a nice brown sauce with a tomatoey, bacony combination to it. But in today's world, you might not be as impressed as what the guys back then, 100 years ago, because that was the best sauce ever. Because
our traditional company.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Let's Celebrate TV Basic Skills. I'm your host, Peter Lee. Today, we're continuing our exploration of the 5 French mother sauces, and today we're doing sauce tomato. Now, what are the mother sauces? First, there's the bechamel, which is a creamy white sauce. Next is espagnole, which is a brown sauce that's darker and thicker than your average gravy. Then there's velouté, which is made with a light stock and delicious. There's sauce tomato, and don't call it marinara. And finally, there's hollandaise, which is egg-based sauce. Now, this sauce tomato is the basis of most tomato sauces that will become other sauces later. That's why it's called a mother sauce. And this is made in the French method. So the first thing we did was I preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 Celsius. Now I have here a nice large oven-proof skillet. We're going to use a pan and have it over medium heat. We're going to start by adding 2 tablespoons of butter. Get that melting. Next, we're going to add some salt pork. Now what is salt pork? This is salt pork, and you get it in where the hams and things like that are in the meat section. Salt pork is pork that's cured, just salt, whereas bacon has other spices and it's smoked. This is going to give a richness and some wonderful pork flavor that you won't necessarily taste as pork, but it's an undercurrent of richness. About 3 ounces, or about 95 grams. I just cut it up into small pieces.
सर यो के होला मासु
We're just going to put this in with the butter. The butter is going to help it get started and help the fat start to render. All that is the flavor. We're just going to let this go for a couple of minutes until it starts to render. Alrighty, this is starting to render. Now you don't need to cook this all the way down until it's crispy, but you'll start to see some coloring on it. And that means it's starting to render. And it will continue to render. This is just getting started. Alright, to this, we're going to add some more flavors. It's all about building layers of flavor. I have 1 carrot, all by just going to let this cook, stir it once in a while, for 5 to 7 minutes, or until the onions and celery are translucent and the vegetables start to soften. Alright, my vegetables are softening, they're looking great. Now we want to give this sauce a little body. So the next ingredient, this is where I want you to hold on, stick with me. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. Now, I know some of you are saying, somebody might know how does it. This is the French tomato sauce. Stick with me. So we're just going to stir around, get everything coated with flour. And we're going to let this cook for another few minutes. We want to see the flour just start to get a little golden brown. It's going to take maybe 5 minutes. That's going to cook the flour, the raw flour taste out. It's going to thicken it, but toasting a little bit is going to give yet more deep flavor. And that's what we want. Alright, I'm starting to see some color in my flour, which is just what we want. Now don't let this go too long because you'll burn it to the bottom of your pan and that will make your sauce bitter. More flavor. I'm going to add some herbs now. I have a sprig of fresh thyme right in. I have a bay leaf. Now I have fresh bay leaf today, but you can use dry. And this is one of those flavors that when it's not there, you miss it. Right in.
त्यसमा हुँदैन त्यो
Of course, half a tomato sauce from that garlic. This is just a couple cloves, roughly crushed up. Right in. A little stir. Oh, and right away, those herbs and garlic smell wonderful. Very fragrant. Now, some of the tomatoes. I have 2 cans, 28 ounces or 791 grams each of crushed tomatoes. And that's very important to use crushed tomatoes. We're going to pour this right in. All out. Next up is beef stock.
Beef
I
stock.
have 16 ounces or 480 mils of beef stock. You can use veal stock if you can get it. You can even use chicken or vegetable stock. But the beef stock is going to give you what I keep saying, a richer, deeper flavor. Right in. Lovely. Now this looks really thin right now, and it is. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of salt. Not too much salt, because that salt will a little bit more, because there's a lot of liquid in there now. And some black pepper. Finally, don't get upset. Some of you are going to get upset about this. I'm going to add a pinch of sugar.
pinch sugar
Just that much. That's not going to make it sweet, but it will help all the tomato flavor come out. And we want to bring this up to a turn it up a little bit. Cover up a little bit partway, just to help it come up to a boil. Once it starts to boil, we're going to put this in the oven, and that's the other thing that you might not be used to. I'm sure no one has ever for sauce or something ready on the stove all day. It's been done in the oven. And it's already starting to fall. Like this, at 350-degree oven, for about 90 minutes. I'm going to keep the lid partially askew like this. That's going to keep it splattering everywhere. It's also going to let some of the water evaporate out. Alright, it's been 90 minutes, and I've taken my sauce out of the oven. I'm going to cool down and rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. I went ahead and finished the bay leaf and thyme sprigs out of it already. So let me show you what this looks like. Isn't that glorious?
सर यो चाहिँ के बनेको यो कम्प्लिट बनेको के भन्छ
That smells so good. The potato is just roasted, concentrated. Now from here, where would you go? Well, you could force this through a fine mesh sieve to get rid of all of those little bits and bobs that are in there. Or do is your immersion blender. Twist the lettuce until it's smooth. But be careful, this is still hot. You don't want to splatter tomato sauce all over. Really, all you need to do, I love these immersion blenders. They're pretty expensive. Now, what difference become with this tomato sauce? Well, you can add cucumber sauce, you can make it a Provençal sauce. You can make it in every basket of pepperoni sauce. Or, to go really unique, you can go to the like manicure, Italian nonas. You can just add spices and meats and whatever other flavorings and make your own Sunday spaghetti sauce. Or some people around here call it the Sunday gravy. Let's give it some taste. That's very good. And you get the back. You get that garlic and the thyme. It's rich from that beef stock and that salt pork and all that lusciousness. It looks nice.